This is Anthony Richardson, and you're listening to RosterWatch.
This is AJ Brown, and you're listening to RosterWatch.
This is Josh Allen, and you're listening to RosterWatch.
Yes, welcome back to the Pick'em Show. Alex and Cody live here from the home studios. So excuse the kind of different heights and the weird perspective here. Cody's actually maybe on a shorter chair than me and still looks taller. But thanks to everybody for being here for the Underdog Pick'em Show. Real quick show today as we're kind of crammed in here to the two men in one spot. But as usual, a big week last week. We went 11-4 with these 15 picks. So we hope you guys tailed along with some of them. Whether you choose to fade our picks or whether you choose to tail the picks, remember at Underdog Fantasy to use promo code ROSTER to get a 50% deposit bonus up to $250. It helps us out a lot. The picks have been hitting. It was a giant week last week. So maybe it'll be this week. I don't know. Trash Man's picks look pretty trashy. We'll start out with his. Let's see here. We have Trash Man has these. So he likes Evan Ingram higher than 44.5 receiving yards, which is interesting because Cody likes Evan Ingram on the targets. So maybe some correlation there. You can only play him once, so in each entry. So maybe you can mix and match those between entries. He likes Tank Bigsby as one of the spicy ones, right? That gives you extra juice. He likes Tank Bigsby for over 0.5 rushing plus receiving touchdowns. He likes Jamison Williams higher than 3.5 receptions. And he likes Tank Dell, as usual, over 59.5 receiving yards. So that's what Trash Man has.
As long as Nico's out, I feel like that Tank one has feet every week.
Yeah.
He also has Polk on there too.
Here are mine that I'm sorry. Jalen Polk higher than 1.5 receptions. It seems reasonable. I don't have his rationale for all these, but those are his picks, and we wanted to make sure to give them out first. All right. Here are mine. I like Malik Neighbors higher than 6.5 receptions. And the reason why, he's averaging almost 9 catches a game. And I think in this game, for one, what people are doing is they're factoring in that Darius Slayton over the course of the last 2 weeks has done enough to earn more of a role. What I think is that I think he's a 1-for-1 replacement for Malik Neighbors. And once Malik Neighbors is back, he goes back to the dustbin. Before this, I
think that's the only question here, right?
Well, right. Because
or if he stays healthy.
I think that there's another thing. Even if they do want to keep him going, they're gonna have to use him in a role that is more of the classic Slayton with the 9 routes and the longer developing stuff. That offensive line is to smithereens right now, and I think that actually helps Malik Neighbors as one of the guys that's like one of the first read goats. Yep. Like if Daniel Jones is going to get it out quick, Malik Neighbors is always his first read. 6.5 receptions here against a matchup that on paper is good against the Philly secondary. So Malik Neighbors higher than 6.5 receptions. My next one, Kenneth Walker higher than 3.5 receptions. This is a good matchup for opposing running backs in Atlanta. Yep. But it's not just that. Kenneth Walker is blown this thing out in his last, I believe, 4 games. What is his last?
I feel like you've taken this thing 4 times now.
Yeah,
it's like the Diego Pavia one in college where they just don't adjust. There's like, this guy's not this, so let's keep this number down here.
It's just like his receiving role has been outrageous. So I'm pulling up the game logs. So he's gone over this in the last 3. So
and his trajectory's only going up.
Whenever he's been healthy, he's had 4 receptions in week 4. He's only played in 4 games this season.
Yeah.
So weeks 4, 5, and 6. 4 receptions, 7 receptions, 8 receptions, and now he gets the Atlanta Falcons that are giving up the 5th most receptions per game to opposing running backs.
And technically, we have a banged up Tyler Lockett, which is just another,
Even though I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean,
I don't know how banged up he is, but
I mean, they've made him one of the captains for this week's game, so I think he might be okay. But it can't. He does have a designation with a knee. Yeah. So we'll say Kenneth Walker higher than 3.5 receptions. Again, over on Underdog, use promo code ROSTER for that 50% deposit bonus of the $250. This one is more of just a feel thing, but it's also an AI thing and a chat GPT thing.
It's facts are the facts.
It's Devontae Adams higher.
You can't even read it.
Higher than 48.5 receiving yards. And I don't know. I'll check a couple projections here and stuff. Whenever I just saw this, it didn't. The projections are showing that I'm clear here by 10 yards. But I think that, look, if you just look at Devontae Adams from the time that he actually became a guy that Aaron Rodgers trusted during their time together in Green Bay, it was from 2018 to 2021. In those 4 seasons, they played 54 games together where they were both healthy. And there was only 7 times that he didn't get there out of 54. Thank you to ChatGPT for finding that out for us. Just pretty good really number. Quick. But you're telling me they're not going to go. I mean, are you really telling me that in his first game after they've gone out and done this and, that they're not going to at least force feed him to a small degree for 48.5 yards?
Well, my initial thought, and I'm on my plane right over here, and I'm looking at these numbers on Prize Picks and Underdog, and I'm looking at these numbers, and it's across the books, it's targets, receptions. I'm well, these numbers look very attainable, right? And then the yards one, I was well, I know they're going to have quick game, and then I come to have the conversation with you, and you're well, dude, what did they do when they were together, and how important is this game to their success? And it's it's pretty clear, they're going to have to force feed him the football because they force fed the football to Garrett Wilson 22 times just a couple weeks ago. Both Garrett Wilson and Allen Lazard go north of 10 targets this past week.
He's going to go.
The writing's on the wall.
It's going to be higher than 48.5. It's just if it's not, then just the Jets. They don't know what they're doing, but you see these pictures and these memes of these two guys together in practice. 48.5. I don't have all the stats to back it up, but just from a guy that just watches football, I just think he goes over.
So sometimes it doesn't have to have sometimes it doesn't have to make sense from a statistical standpoint in most recent games. Sometimes it's just hey, it's Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams.
I like Tyler Huntley to go more than 181.5 passing yards in this game. You got a bunch of really fast players: Waddle, Tyreek Hill, Devon Achane, all those guys back. And you're coming off the bye with Mike McDaniel having some time to help get Huntley used to the different motions, the shifts, the timing of this offense. We've talked about how that was what was needed. This is a better matchup than what he faced in New England this week. Whenever they go to the fast track in Indy, and 181.5 seems too low. He projects a good 25 yards clear of that. So we're going to go with Tyler Huntley taking a step forward and actually being helpful to people that have Tyreek Hill and Waddle and stuff like that, and maybe getting some offense going here. And in that same game, I'm going to take the less on Josh Downs. And I know it's at 48.5 yards. And I know it sounds weird because Downs has been a GOAT, but that's been with Joe Flacco at this point in time. This simply just comes down to the fact that it looks like Michael Pittman's going to play. He said he's going to play, even though this Michael Pittman thing,
weird,
by the way, I just don't know what to make of any of it. He's going to go on IR, and then he comes back to a full practice last Friday, and he plays, and then he practices this week, then he's DNP Friday, but he comes out and says he's playing. I guess that he's just managing whatever this back issue is, but he says he's going to play. We know that there's just a lot. All these guys are healthy, and it just feels like, man, with Josh Downs, he runs these he's a little zone killer kind of guy, man. And he would those are timing routes, and those are kind of touch passes and stuff. It's almost like Alec Pierce is the wide receiver in that offense that profiles best just to go kind of get downfield and get open and let Anthony Richardson just really toss one up for him. And I just don't think that there's that kind of chemistry yet with Josh Downs, or just within that offensive system for a player like that to receive as much volume as it would be with a system quarterback like Joe Flacco. So I'm not going to go with the system wide receiver. I'm going to take Josh Downs less than 48.5, even though he's looking like an awesome player.
100%. I think that warrants, especially with the inefficiencies we've seen from Richardson the 3 games he did play, sub 50% passing. We talked about Evan Ingram before with Trashman's receiving yards. I'm going to go I'm going to go higher than 6.5 targets for Evan Ingram this week. He came back last week, 10 for 10 in the receiving game. seems like they've been trying to find somebody to do something in this offense. We'll see Brian Thomas match up predominantly with Gonzalez up there in New England. Actually, it's over in London right now, but against New England nonetheless. So I'm just going to ride with what's there. Evan Ingram, we know last year he had 143 targets, which is top 12 all time at the tight end position. I'm just going to ride with what I know. Mark Andrews, speaking of Grody, speaking of tight end, Mark Andrews.
Yeah, I don't know why you picked this.
3.5 targets. He had the 2 games. He had the 2 games a couple weeks ago where he had 1 target. But Mark Andrews, three of the first 5 this year, 5, 5, and 4. They need him in a game like this. This is a game where it might seem like Baltimore's on a high roll right now. They're maybe one of the best teams, if not the best team in football. But this Tampa Bay team will push Baltimore a little bit, in my opinion. So Will Reichard, 7.5 kicking points for the Minnesota Vikings against the Detroit Lions. 7.5 kicking points can be 2 field goals, 2 touchdown extra points. That's 8 for you right there. I've attended way too many Minnesota Viking Detroit Lion games in my life and seen way too many field goals kicked in these games, in these divisional games that stay tight. And I like Reichard as the kicker in this one. Speaking of Minnesota and Detroit, we got Johnny Munt. Yes, Johnny Munt, M-U-N-D-T, if you're looking for him on UnderdogFantasy.com. 11.5 longest reception. We're going lower than 11.5 for the longest reception. Then
I love that.
And it was just a kind of a maniacal one, isn't it? Just like a what? Tight end? What?
Yeah.
The other 2 that I like, and we'll kind of finish up here, is DeAndre Hopkins, lower than 20.5 longest reception for the Tennessee Titans. We've seen
no, it's lower than 18.5.
Okay, so I had him and Judy mixed up. So Judy's the other one. Judy lower than 20.5 longest reception. DeAndre Hopkins lower than 18.5 longest reception. Hopkins has went over this twice this season in total. I think that Tennessee's going to struggle in this game. We were looking at the Levis lines earlier. Would it surprise you if Tennessee got shut out in this game?
Why didn't I take Levis?
Because we thought about it.
I might add why did we not take him less than 178?
I don't remember. You talked about it. I don't know why you didn't write it down.
I might add that on. Let's add that on.
All right.
Levis less than 178.5
passing yards.
Passing
Right.
yards.
So we like that. So there's that. DeAndre Hopkins, like I said, lower than 18.5 longest reception. And then Jerry Jeudy, who's the de facto number 1 now in Cleveland. Again, they've been targeting this cat all year. The last 2 weeks, it's been 3 targets. I expect this number to jump back up into that 6, 7, 8 range. I think his target's 6.5. So you can sprinkle if you want to sprinkle on that, but I'm not taking that. I'm taking the Jerry Jeudy lower than 20.5 longest reception, and I'm doing that. That's one of my favorite picks of the week, honestly. To be honest with you, Jerry Jeudy 20.5.
When's the last time that you saw Deshaun Watson
complete a pass downfield,
or just like be part of an explosive play? It's unless we get Jameis in there, I'm not going to be worried about that one bit. Remember, go to Underdog Fantasy, use the promo code ROSTER to get a 50% sign-up bonus of $250. And you can scan the QR code right there. You can, like we always say, man, you can go with the picks, you can fade the picks. Last week we went 11-4 on the season. We are 62% with these. We post them up on the website so you guys can see them. You can go to RosterWatch.com. I'm going to post them up right now as soon as the video is done, and we'll get them posted up so you guys can use these throughout the course of the weekend. Also, if you're playing college football, make sure to go get Ryan Wingo at more than 28.5 receiving yards for the Texas Longhorns.
It's like 1 reception.
That's a little bonus for you. Make sure and get that done. All right? All right. Underdog Fantasy, promo code ROSTER. We'll see y'all next time.
This is Anthony Richardson, and you're listening to Roster Watch.
This is AJ Brown, and you're listening to Roster Watch.